Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this night-ending bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this night-ending bonus upload, shall we? Alright, folks, so I figure why not make a quick announcement and share an amazing interview with the person the announcement is technically about. My book was supposed to come out on the 23rd, and unfortunately, there's a delay. I cannot talk much about it. It is going to be short, 2 chapters. That's all I can say. I will let everyone know when it will be out, which should be pretty quick. I'm just working with the publisher to get those 2 chapters out and redo the table of contents and other things. That's about it. This interview was done Christmas Eve of 2020 with a dear friend of mine, and many of you had the opportunity to speak with him firsthand. Just hearing this old interview made me miss him even more. Let's get into it. Victor, how are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
And this was Victor's idea about a week and a half ago, that we get together today and share his most recent hunt, hopefully his last hunt. And it's kind of Victor's Christmas present to you guys. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Victor. Victor.
Okay. Yeah, this was my final one. I hanging up my guns. This started all on the 27th of November, and I got a call, and it was from in Colorado, and the original call got called to me, and they said that this was the call. They called in and said that the mountain ranger was on maneuvers in Fort Sill, and that a helicopter unit had taken and dropped off some rangers in the mountains, and they was up flying and had a 50 caliber and a gunship on one side, an old gunship, and loaded with blanks. I was doing the whole thing, and they was flying around to finish maneuvers and had orders to head back. And as they was flying back, one of the man in the back was complaining to the guys up front that he wasn't going to make it back to the base, and that they was going to have to sit down and let him go to the bathroom. And he complained enough to where the pilot finally set it down in a field on top of a mountain and told him to hurry. and he positioned the copter facing due west. And the guy took off and ran due north into the woods on the north side of the copter. And him and the co-pilot was sitting there, and they was just jibber-jabbing back and forth. And the pilot realized that he was just talking to himself. And he looks over to the co-pilot, and the co-pilot is out of his seat and has mashed himself up against this, far away from his pilot as he can get. And he's just mashed up against the side of the helicopter and has this look on his face. As the pilot just described as awful. And he's trying, he never says nothing, and the pilot finally turns to his left to look out the side window to see what he's looking at and trying to look away from. And then he turns and he has to look up to see the face of this creature. And it's standing there. And he described it as a 17, 18 foot Bigfoot, 19 foot Bigfoot. That's what he said. And he said he's looking up at this thing and said it's not doing anything. It's just looking down on him. And he said all of a sudden it reaches up and touches the rotor and spins the rotors on the helicopter. And by then, the pilot is telling him to start the copter. Let's get out of here. And the pilot says, we can't leave. We got to pick up such and such. And they see him start to come out of the woods, and they're not wanting him to come out of the woods on account of this creature being there at the plane, at the helicopter. And they don't know how to message him because they ain't got no radio they can call him over. They ain't got no way to get in touch with him. And he comes on out of the woods. And about that time, the creature must have seen him and started towards the back of the helicopter. And the two people, the pilot and the co-pilot, are waving frantically up there in the copter and trying to get his attention, and he's coming on and coming on. And finally, just as the creature gets to the back of the helicopter, the guy that's coming back sees it. And he breaks into a dead run, just as hard as he can come. And he's coming, and he's coming, and he's coming. And he runs to the front of the helicopter. And the only way that he can get in is either to climb up and get in the front with the two pilots, and there's no room up there for him, or go in the side door where the 50 cals hanging out, and that's the only two openings. And they can't let him climb up in there with them. And this creature's at the back of the copter, and he's at the front. Well, he starts around the front, just looking around to see where it is, and it starts back around the front on the south side of the helicopter. And he starts back on the north side and jumps in the door and hollers for them to start it up. Well, meanwhile, the Bigfoot creature had moved back around that side and it's coming up the side of the helicopter and gets right there to where the door is and locks its hands on the side of the door and starts to pull itself inside. And it takes these helicopters so long to crank. The rotors are just now starting to spin. And it's pulling itself inside, and this guy's got no place to go, and he don't know what to do. And the only thing he knows to do, he jumped into the braces on this 50 caliber, throws it across his shoulder, and lets go with the 50 caliber, points it at it, and just turns it loose with everything, just blanks. Well, it scares this creature enough to where it let go. They was able to get the helicopter off the ground. They flew back to base, and they called the law and reported to the law. And with the law, they called the DNR because DNR, they didn't know what to do. And DNR called the right people, made phone calls, got them notified, and I spoke with them. This is the story they gave. So that day I sent 2 agents out there. And got out there, and they talked with the people. And, you know, people exaggerate heights. So the guys went on out there. They had automatic weapons, .308 caliber. And the 2 agents went out there, and the next day they flew them up there to where this had happened. And they called me back and say that the footprints was 25 inches long, 11 inches across at the toes, and 8 inches at the heel. And they was in solid ground. They was 2 inches into the ground. So he said, "We need some help on this one," because they figured it was, you know, the one we'd hunted in Idaho and Montana. So I sent 5 more agents. So I've got 7 agents out there. And the 27th, the 28th, I didn't hear nothing back. 29th, I heard that they was on its trail and that they was closing ground on it, and that it was zigzagging just across the northern part of Colorado. You know, wasn't trying to make a run for any certain place. It was just zigzagging across, back, running north, south, north, south, north, south. And then on the 29th, on the 30th, I got a code red ×5. And as soon as I got that, I had to, I myself, load it up and flew to the location and was picked up at a point and carried to the morgue. got picked up, carried to the point. Had been by the morgue and seen what damage he'd done to my men. He killed 5, and I had one in the hospital, and one that had told me what had happened. He came in while they was camped at a certain location, getting some rest. And while they was resting, it came in during that time, and the one that was on guard evidently either fell asleep or it just snuck in on him and got by him and did some bad damage. And he wasn't even able to get a shot off. And at least he survived it. So then they flew me to the end the next morning up to where it was on the mountain. And I started tracking from there and spent that day just catching up, trying to catch up as much as I could because I didn't know. And I seen where the zigzagging was going. And spent that whole day doing nothing but that. Just staying on the trail. And all night that night, I was able to track because of the moon. Had nearly a full moon. And I was able to go all night that night. Then the next day, I was able to track all day on the first. I was able to track all day. No sightings of it, just, being able to trail it. And, it had turned north now and was headed north towards Wyoming. And it was about 12 miles to the Wyoming line from where it had attacked these men. So it didn't take us very long to get into the Wyoming state. And that was on the first. We crossed into Wyoming. That night, I was able again to track all night with the moon. I was able to track till about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it started snowing so hard that I had to stop and just hunker down and wait on daylight, but I didn't sleep because I didn't know how close or how far behind I was, dude. And I was listening, trying to watch everything. On the second, that morning, as soon as it broke daylight, I was gone because I could still see the impressions in the snow where it had walked. The problem being, though, I was having to take 3 or 4 steps to its one. And then there's a lot of places I was having to use skis, and a lot of places I was having to use snowshoes. And, it was just slow go for me, where it was, it wasn't having to slow down much at all. And it was just going. I could tell now it had turned north, and it was just in a straight line, just about due north. And I hadn't called anybody at that point. And then it went on in the night of the second. I tracked up as late as I could, rested a little bit, didn't sleep. Morning of the 3rd, I woke up and I started on down, following it. This was the furthest I traveled in the day, was just on that day. I probably did, I don't know, 35 miles that day. May have done 40. I don't know exactly how far I made that day. I know I did a long way because I was jogging and I done it all day long. As far as what I had on me, I had a pack, very little rations, and I probably didn't have 15 pounds on my back. My rifle, and didn't have like 15 rounds of ammunition in it altogether. And, I was traveling light. I knowed I had to travel light so I could make good time. And sleeping bag, like I said, I think it's 15 rounds of ammunition. My rifle, sleeping bag, just very, very little food. And I was traveling, just not eating, not sleeping. And drinking good mountain water. Just trying to catch up, seeing all kinds of game. Animals along the way, elk, deer, 3 bear. In this thing, I wasn't seeing where it was stopping eating itself. It was almost like it noticed being pushed, but it hadn't seen me. It couldn't have known I was on its trail. At that point, it couldn't have known I was on its trail. And but night of the 3rd, I tracked all night long. And on the morning of the 4th, I sat down and I was overlooking a big gorge and just figuring my way to get around it and over it. And this was the morning of the 4th. And I seen it get up. And this was the first sight I had of it. And it was about 650, maybe 700 yards away. And I was thinking, well, did I take the shot? And the wind was blowing. I was tired, and I didn't know if I could, I just didn't know if I could hit it at that distance with that 458. My mind wasn't functioning good, and I didn't know if I could hit it at that distance. I just didn't take the shot. It stood up, and it's like it looked straight at me. And it stood there and just walked back and forth to the sides for like 2 minutes. And then it was gone. And I got up and I was gone. And it took me like 3 hours to get to where it was. And, and that was 650 yards. So I pressed on all day long, never seen it again that day. But I know I got within that close range to it, so, sleeping was out now at any time. 4th day, nothing else happened all day, all night, same thing. except I ran into some bad weather and I had to stop and try to find shelter because it wasn't cold enough for that. It wasn't cold enough for it to be snow. It was just sleety ice. Had to try to stay dry. Finally found some elms and got up underneath them. That kept most of the rain off with my rain poncho. I was able to stay dry mostly for the night. And got up the next morning, and this was the 5th of the month. And I was thinking, well, I called you on the 5th.
Yep.
This is the first I think you'd sent me a text sometime during the night. And I answered your text and sent you a pretty long answer to it. I don't think I actually called you.
No, you didn't call. It was a long. I used the text message that you sent me to give everyone an update, kind of how you were doing, because people were asking.
Yeah, and that was I hadn't even called into the office or anything to let them know what's going on. So I sent them basically the same thing I sent you. And I was up and I wondered if it got up before me and left, how far ahead of me it was, how I was going to make up all this ground. Then I got to thinking about, well, if we made it into Montana, it had to cross the Yellowstone River. That'd be a good place to, if I could get ahead of it, or get there by the time it did be at the river, I could, get it before it crossed that river. That'd be a good place. And that was my goal, to get to that river before it did. And I know on the trajectory we was going, I was trying then to find me an easier path, try to stay close enough to its path, know if it changed course on me, And then that 5th night, I was wore out. I know I was going to have to rest and try to sleep. And when I stopped, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I could hear something. And it sounded like snoring. And I believe I was close enough to that thing that night that I could actually hear it snoring. But I couldn't see, and I was scared to try to find it in the dark because I didn't know if it could see better than I could in the dark. I didn't have no night vision with me. I didn't carry anything extra that I didn't even think I would need. I didn't carry anything like that. No night vision, no nothing. I just went with the bare minimum. And next morning, I'd slept about 4 hours. I was ready to go again. This was the 6th day, and we was up daylight. I was gone, and I found where it bedded down, probably 250 yards from it. And I figured that's what I heard. And I figured then I was 250 yards behind it by the time I caught up. But that was by the end of that day. It took me that long to catch up to it. Well, it went on that day. We came to one pretty good little river that day that I had to get across. And I found a big log. I didn't have to get wet. I was able to walk across that log, keep from getting wet. And it was cold, everything. I didn't want to get wet. Got across it, went on, and then I ran into a herd of elk that afternoon, and I took one of them elk out that afternoon and cooked me up some meat on a fire and ate good and built my energy back up, a little bit, and got ready and went on through the night and came up on the sixth day and tracked, and I know I was getting closer and closer because of the way the tracks was. But still, I was having to take 3 days, one. And like I said, I was jogging most of the time. Except when I got into the deeper snow, I'd have to get on the skis or get on the snowshoes, and I'd shuffle as fast as I could on the snowshoes. And just kept going and going and going, and at night it was the same thing. It's just a repeat. And then on the 7th day, about halfway through the day, I was close enough to it that I could hear it, and I could see tree movement, but I couldn't actually see it. I could see it moving trees going through the woods and everything, but I couldn't see it itself. I could just see the trees moving from side to side as it went through them. And it would go through heavy brush. It didn't care. It'd go through the heaviest brush it could find, seems like, trying to slow me down, which it did. And the more it slowed me down, seems like the further ahead of me it got. And I just kept on pushing. And we got up. And 7th day, same thing. 8th day, same thing. 8th day, I was catching up. We got into the aspens, and we had just got broke into, on the 8th day, we had crossed into Montana and was pushing towards the Yellowstone River. And it was going towards that Yellowstone River, and I just couldn't push myself to get there anymore. And I laid down probably 500 yards from the river. I had a clearing where I could see this big opening down through across the river. And I laid down and slept for about 2 hours, and I woke up, and I scanned the horizon down through there, and I seen it, and it was about 3/4 of the way across the river. And I threw my little old pack down on the rock that was right there in front of me. I threw my .458 up on that pack, laid it down on it, and put it on the back of its head. And I was hurrying, trying to get it before it got out on the other side. And I took a shot at about, I guess it's about 475 yards. And I hit it, knocked it down, but I hit it in the left back shoulder blade. what I'd call his left back shoulder blade, or what would be a human's left back shoulder blade. And it knocked it down, and it got up, and it was pissed. Man, was it pissed. It was thrashing, carrying on. It got up and out of the water in like 10 seconds. The last 15 yards, that water that got out of it got up into the woods, and I'd grab my rifle and rush down there and got down there, and I was looking up in the woods where it went, and I couldn't see nothing, couldn't hear nothing. And I thought, well, that thing has kicked it into high gear and it's gone. And here I am looking at a river that was probably, I don't know, 60 yards across where I was at. I was looking, trying to find what looked like the shallowest place to cross. Really couldn't tell how shallow it was. It was muddy. I was thinking, well, how am I going to get across here? Do I let it go and just try to call somebody for a pickup? Try to find it on the other side, go on from there? Or what do I do? And I didn't know what to do. And finally, I said, I ain't going to lose this thing. I took my little pack and throwed it up on my head and took my rifle in my right hand. Decided that when I got to the other side, I'd take long enough to build a fire, get warm, change clothes. I did have, two changes of clothes with me, I think. And I said, I'll change clothes and, get warm again and be where I can go. So I took my big Parker off and put it on my head. I start wading across the river, and I'm up to my belly button in water. And all of a sudden, there's this big splash off to my right. And I jerk around to see what it was. I thought, damn, what a fish. And, I thought, and I start to turn back around, move on. About that time, something hits about 8 foot in front of me. Big, huge splash, threw water all over me. I realized it wasn't fish. And then I seen the next one coming. It hit about 8 foot in front of me again, and this thing's hurling rocks at me as big as bowling balls. And I stood there and threw 2 or 3 more. And I'm thinking, well, heck, or do I got to back out of here or something? And it just keeps hurling these rocks the size of bowling balls at me. And I said, well, if I back up, I ain't gaining no ground. I said, if I move forward, maybe, my chances are it won't hit me. Or if it does, I'm done anyway. So I start on forward, and it just barrages me with these rocks size. Some of them got within 2 or 3 foot of me. It just awful there for next 7 or 8 minutes till I could get out of the water. And I was moving as fast as I could because I had to try to keep my feet underneath me where I wouldn't fall. And I'm trying to find a place when I get up on that, but on the other side that I can get away from the rocks. And I see 2 big old boulders over there that I can get behind. I think I can get behind them. I'll be safe behind them if he's still throwing them. I finally get out over there and get behind them two big boulders, he just keeps raining down these boulders, hitting them boulders with them rocks. He's done zeroed in on them two boulders. And they're rounded where I'm at. These rocks are coming right over the top down on me. And I look out in front of me, and there's two more that's give me more protection, but that's 20 yards in front of me, and I got to get there. And my clothes are starting to get stiff and freezing. And I know I got to get a fire built, but I got to get cover where I can get away from these rocks. And just everything's working against me right then. But I take off and I get behind these two rocks, boulders. They give me a whole lot more cover. They're higher. And they keep coming right down on top of me, and they're split, and I can see between them. And I'm looking between them trying to figure out where they're coming from. And I can't see nothing. So, and he's overthrowing these two. He's overthrowing them. He ain't got his range. You know, when he does get his range, he's going to hit the top of them. They shouldn't come down on top of him. So I'm listening to him throwing the rocks, and he just keeps throwing them. Meanwhile, I'm building me up a little fire. You know, trying to get me a little fire going right there behind me. With just what little driftwood's up there close enough that I can reach. And I get a little fire going and looking through the rocks every once in a while to see, but he's still throwing rocks. And then the rocks stop, and I turn and look through the boulders, and I can look up there and I can see trees moving then. And I start watching some of them aspen, and he's pulling them up out of the ground. It's actually pulling them up out of the ground. And he pulls 6 or 7 up out of the ground. And finally he pulls one up he must like, because he twists the bottom ball off of it. And he runs his hand up it till it's about 20 foot long, and he breaks it off. And he's made it like a club. It's about 20 foot long. And then I notice it just gets really quiet. I can't see him, can't hear him. Nothing's happening, no movement up there. I reach behind me and put as much wood on that fire as I can behind me, just in case he comes up behind me. I'm trying to build up something, you know, to maybe help protect me from my rear. And I turn back, and I can see him up there then. I got a visual on him. He's about 85 yards away, but he's coming down towards the river. And he's angling down towards the river, towards me and towards the river. And if he comes down the way I figure, he's going to come out about 50 yards away from me. And I'm looking around the edge of the rock, trying to see where I can get to have a shot on him if he comes out. And I do. I've got a perfect shot on him if he comes out around that one place. And I decide that's where I'm going to make my stands, right here on beside these two boulders. And I check my receiver on my gun. I put one more bullet back in the gun where I've got it full. You know, them 458s don't hold but 4 shells. So, one in the tube and 3 in it. So 4 shots is all I've got. And so I'm loaded fully up, and I'm watching him. He's taking these steps, trees pushing to the sides. I'm getting worried, more worried, because I ain't never confronted anything this big in size. I keep telling myself I've got an elephant gun. If it'll take down an elephant, it'll take down anything. That's what I've always told myself about this 458. And finally, he walks out on the beach, like sandy area up there. And this is the first time I've got to see him close, and I get to take in the whole thing of it. And it's pretty amazing to see it, but I was also pretty awestruck at what I was looking at. Here's this thing. I was guessing 19 foot tall. And I was guessing it to be, I thought it weighed more when I first seen it. I was guessing, when I first seen it, I was guessing 2,800 pounds when I first seen it. But then after everything took place, I realized it wasn't as heavy. But it walked out there, and it had that club like in its right hand, and it's making these motions. I decided, I found the point that I said, when it breaks that point, that's where I'm gonna take my first shot. And it don't take long for it to, one of its steps, 12 foot. That's about what it was taking in one stride, 12 foot in a stride. And I was, at 30 yards, that's where I was going to take my first shot. And it came out about 50 yards away. So it didn't take but 2 or 3 steps, and I was ready to make the shot. And I decided my shots was going to be, I was going to take a head shot. And if it didn't go down with the head shot, I was going to put one in the chest. And then I'd have went back to the head. I had an explosive bullet in my gun. I wasn't shooting solids. I was shooting 550 grain explosives that normal people can't get. These were special bullets. And when it got to the 30-yard mark, I took the shot and put it right under the cavity of its nose, right above its lip, right under its nose. And that's where the shot entered. And it just blowed out the base of the skull in the back and broke its spinal column and killed it with one shot. And it just crumpled to the ground. And I let it lay there for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes before I walked over to it. And it had fallen straight back and was, its position. It had its left arm up on its body. And I had walked around it, surveyed it, looked at it. Got my heart back under control. And I had texted you before, right after I had killed it.
Yep.
And I had called myself a pickup in and had called for a pickup on it. And I had walked over to it and was just surveying it, looking at it. And I tried to pick up its left arm. And I'm a strong man. Strong. And I couldn't lift its left arm. I don't know if something had happened and rigor mortis or something had set in, muscle spasm or something. But I couldn't pick its left arm up. I don't know if it was just that heavy.
Its left arm was bigger than you said. It was taller.
Yeah.
Longer than you are tall.
Yeah, it was. It was longer than I was tall. And I sent you all the measurements on it.
Yeah. 19. I think I got them in my file here.
You got them available. 18'7", I think.
Hang on 1 second. Okay, 19. They will have to measure it, but I guess 19 feet. And
yeah.
This is, I didn't get the exact measurements from you. I just got this was the night that you had killed it.
Yeah.
It weighed about 2,400 pounds, and then you said its arms are longer than I am tall. I'm 6'4", so maybe 7 feet. I couldn't pick its arm up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. But it was pretty amazing. Hang on just 1 second, and I'm gonna pull up the measurements of it.
All right.
They classified it as a troglodyte, Troglodyte. Its actual measured out at 18'7" tall. It weighed 2,375 pounds. Its arms were 6'9". Its legs were 7'4". Across the shoulders was 73.25 inches.
Wow.
Its hands, if you spread your hands and measure from the tip of your pinky to the tip of your thumb, it's measured 22.75 inches. Its feet was 26.5 inches. Across the toes was 12.5 inches. The heel was 8 inches. Across the waist was 46.75 inches. Its head is 23.25 inches.
Is that in circumference?
No, that's
just from like the chin to the. Okay.
So that is a large creature.
Yeah.
And they came and picked me up and brought in a detachment. I brought 22 men in a cargo net and rolled it onto the cargo net and hooked him up and flew him to Fort Sill. And out of Fort Sill, they put him on a bigger copter and took him to Virginia. And that's where they got all these measurements.
Now, its fur, it was like an orange color, right? An orangish color?
Yeah, orange.
Did it have, couple quick questions. Was the digits, so its fingers, were there 5 or 6?
5.
5? All right. So I'm assuming 5 toes as well.
Yeah, 5 toes as well.
So this was probably the one that you guys were tracking during that Idaho up through to Canada.
Yeah, probably was. And this one was angling back towards that area. He was on the straight path for back to that 30-mile stretch. So it was like he was headed back to there. So I figured it was probably the same one.
Yeah. Now this one would probably go in record books. You know, I mean, for you guys in your record books, the scientists and stuff like that. Had they ever? I mean, are you able to talk to some of these guys sometimes?
Yes,
all right.
I get to talk to them all the time.
So, did they say this is probably one of the biggest they've ever heard of or seen or ever?
This is the biggest one we've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah. They don't even, they said that as far as the Bigfoot that they classified, the biggest one they've ever classified other than this as just regular Bigfoot was 12'8".
So that's like 6 feet taller than that. That's insanity. I remember I got the message and you said I could lay on its chest.
Yeah, that's crazy. I crawled up on it, just let it go. Yeah. I killed the one down in Fout that was 12'4".
Right.
And it was small. It seemed small compared to this.
Yeah, I can't even imagine seeing something that, I mean, that's 3 times the size you are. And
yeah.
Now, you made an interesting comment to me, though. And you said, I think I could have killed it with a 308. Do you remember that comment?
I do.
Now, why do you think that?
Shot placement.
Okay.
I was close enough that I could make a perfect shot on.
All right.
And I don't think I could have done it at a long range. I think I could have done it at 100 yards with it.
Right.
But them guys, I think they could have done it had they been awake. I think they would have took it out that night.
Yeah. And it was a horrific scene.
And they had bigger guns. One of them guys had my .458. One of the agents lost his life that night, had my .458.
Yeah. Jeez, that's just, it's unimaginable that something that large is just walking through these wilderness,
Well, it's hard for me to, I was 85 yards from it to start with at that one point. Couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And then, 10 minutes later, there it was, 85 yards from me.
just
It's
I can't.
almost like cloaking that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Goliath and Samson or whatever. Samson versus Goliath.
Yeah.
It's just insanity. Now, was its teeth? Could you see its teeth when it died?
Yeah.
Were they
Yeah.
like our teeth, or are they different?
They was square.
Okay.
Square.
So like chiclets, large
Yeah.
chiclets, kind of.
Yeah. That's right. Yep.
I wonder if
That's
that
a
was
good
because it was
description.
grinding its teeth, or how it chewed, or maybe eventually just like grinded them down to a square or whatever. That's strange.
Yeah.
Were they able to estimate an age of it?
They hadn't came up with an age on
They
it.
haven't. Okay.
No.
I'm guessing old. I mean, geez,
That-
I'm a pro.
Yeah. It was a male. It was hung like a horse.
Yeah, I kept texting you when you messaged me every once in a while. I'd say, shoot it in the dick.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been easy.
So that it was exposed. You could actually visually see its
Oh yeah.
member hanging out.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was there for the whole world. The hair on it was in some places like on the top of its shoulders, across its back, was coarse, and then other places like on his chest and belly,
Yeah.
was just fine, like silky,
Soft and really soft.
soft. Yeah. Like it had two different types.
Were its eyes brown?
Yes. Yep,
I
they was.
I can't imagine.
Brown as could be.
It's just, I mean, like when you first told me the story, and you told me how it spun the blade of the rotor, I thought of like, like a circus ride kind of just, and then how when they got away with the 50 cal with the blanks, it's just, so it definitely knew what firearm was. So it's had an I bet it's had a very interesting life.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, with them shooting at it like that, I'm sure it's been shot at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it knows what a weapon was or a gun was.
Now, when it came at you with the club, the aspen tree there, did it grunt or make any noises?
I think it was grinding its teeth at me.
Huh.
I think that's the sound it was making.
Other than the snoring that one night, did you hear any like yells or anything? Or
Yeah, that when I started to take that first shot,
yeah,
it was screaming, and it was awful.
yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, it was just like it was right on top of me, and it just didn't get no better. No, I mean, it couldn't got much louder. I don't think. It could almost hurt your ears. It was so loud with the high pitched part of it.
Yeah, I remember like when you first told me, everybody, about the first hunt that you did going up that 30-mile trek there, that there was times that you heard something and it just rattled your insides, and then it was deafening quiet, and then you'd hear another noise, a loud. It's just, I don't even know. Just that's so large. There's no other. I mean, 2,300 pounds. That's a small car. That's a car.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
Yeah, and to hear it go through some of the thickets it went through, it just sounded like a bulldozer.
Yeah.
Going through it.
And then with its fingers extended, like I was doing that when you were talking, and I looked, and that's almost 2 feet. That's an almost 2-foot palm, you know?
Yeah.
So like those rocks that it was throwing at you, bowling ball sized rocks, were just like almost like it was throwing a baseball.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can tell you that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Do they cryogenically freeze them or no?
Yes.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
I always wondered like how, what they would do. Or...
Yeah. They're still doing studies on it. They're trying to figure out its age.
Yeah. How do you know how they do that? Has anybody ever told you how they do that?
They do it through teeth and something about the brain.
Okay. All right.
And I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
But you know, I can open up a horse's mouth and tell you how old he is by his teeth.
Yeah.
I was taught how to do it.
Yeah, a lot of veterinarians can, a lot of just horse people and equine people can do that.
Yeah, can do that.
That's like almost like when you said chiclet teeth. Like when I said chiclets, I was thinking of a horse's, you know, how a horse's teeth are.
How horse teeth. Yeah.
So it must have, I bet, you know, its diet was almost that, pretty similar to a horse, omnivore, but, you know, periodic meat. It just seems like it eats just, you know, it can eat whatever the hell it wants, being that big, but you know, grinding its teeth down like that, it's probably a lot of just grinding and chugging and how a horse eats. It's interesting.
Yeah. Its stomach was full of greenery. So it was not a lot of meat in.
Right. That's interesting.
But it has to eat a lot of greenery to keep up.
Yeah.
Not that much. And as much as I was pushing it them few days, it didn't have a whole lot of time to eat.
Right.
Of course, it could grab something running and eat. So it ain't like it had time to hunt a certain food, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to just go and look for its favorite.
Yeah. So. It's hard to imagine how something like that can be here and travel through the woods and not leave a path that anybody can follow. But it could. Now, where it went through these thickets, anybody could follow it.
Right.
Anybody. But just like when we was in them aspens, you had to look. I mean, even its footprints, it's like it was walking on air in places.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And to be quiet, too, because, you know, I mean, you hear so many accounts of them just being able to walk through the woods at 2,300 pounds and just tiptoe through the woods almost silently.
Yeah, you could hear this one, his steps, when he took them. It's almost like the ground reverberated it, you know.
Right.
vibrated from it.
Yeah, like elephants. They're, you know, the way people can feel the
Yeah.
elephant like coming at them. Wow. So this will be your last, hopefully your last hunt.
That it is. My dad bought that gun when he started in that. I think he gave like $275 for the gun back then. That was brand new, way back when.
Yeah.
So it served him well, served me well. But
It's time to hang it up and put it on the wall.
It's done. Yep, it's done. It served its purpose.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is this is literally your first Christmas with your whole family in a very long time. And it's really cool because you get to end it with a great hunt like that, you know.
Yeah.
And get to enjoy your family for Christmas, and then in a couple of weeks you
retire.
Yeah, and you're just done.
Yeah. I'm done.
And then me and you will be working on the book.
That's right.
So
I wanted to retire on that werewolf, but it didn't happen that way. There's just not a lot of the werewolves going off on bad frenzies anymore.
Right. Well, and this one is a trophy. I mean,
yeah, it is. It is. It is. My first hunt was a werewolf. My last one was a giant.
Yeah.
So.
Quite the amazing.
I've been across the spectrum of them. So now I'll have more time come the 15th of next month.
Yep.
And I hope to be able to stay down here till the 8th, but we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. Hopefully keeping our fingers crossed and prayers for you that you are able to, and then a week later you'll be a free man.
Yep.
Well,
Colorado.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you too much longer from your family. I want to thank you for sharing this encounter with us. Well, there you have it, folks. This night-ending bonus. And like I said, hearing his voice really makes me miss our conversations that we used to have. Not only on the air or recorded, but personal conversations. He was just a good friend. He became a good friend. And he will be missed. He will be missed. With that being said, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives folks like us a chance and a place to share our experiences and theories judgment-free, simply treated with the respect we all deserve. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. And if anyone else is interested in hearing any more of these older interviews done with Victor, there is a playlist on the channel dedicated to him. Q&As and his hunts and such. So with that being said, never stop searching for the answers, never stop asking questions, and never ever stop looking for the truth. God bless.